Ladies and gentlemen, we're in a 2003 911 Carrera. This is the base. This is a 996.2 generation. Car comes with a flat 6 3.6 liter engine. This is the M96, the same one that is known for having some IMS bearing issues, the same one that was carried over into the 997 generation. It pushes out 315 horsepower and 273 pound-feet of torque. The car weighs right around 3,000 pounds, 2,959. And on this base level, I'm pretty sure it has an open differential, and I believe an LSD was only available to higher trims. In terms of mods, we have Apex EC7RS wheels wrapped in Nankang CR-S tires, PFC 08 brake pads, Recaro SPG seat. We actually have some OEM GT3 suspension components, including lower control arms, as well as coilovers, made by Eibach. We of course have the GT3 aero kit, and you can find the full list of mods in the description as always. But with that being said, let's see how this bad boy drives. So right off the bat, I noticed that the seating position in Porsches is usually really good. But the pedal box here, the clutch is so far over to the right, it feels unnatural. And in fact, my leg, see, it's hitting the wheel anytime I go over to hit the clutch, which is not ideal by any means. Don't have this issue with the newer generation Porsche products. Now this car, you have to remember, is almost 20 years old, so keep that in mind. A lot of the inputs they're pretty loose, and you'd expect that from a base level Carrera. Obviously the GT3s were much more hardcore, much tighter, much heavier inputs. But this hydraulic rack, as an example, is quite loose. It has good feedback, and especially when I'm mid-corner, I hit a bump, I'm loading up, I can get a lot of information from the wheel, but it's not very precise. I have a little bit of slop, and the car is not going to actually change direction with the first few degrees of input on the wheel. The wheel is also kind of large and wide. Transmission is not my favorite thing in the world. The throws are unnecessarily long, and the actual entry into each gate and even the lateral slop, it's just loose is how I would describe it. Loose and kind of sloppy. Going back to the pedal box, even heel towing, it's like the brake pedal and the gas are almost too close, or maybe I just have fat feet. But I don't have this issue with other cars. And I can heel toe fine, but sometimes I feel myself pressing both the gas and the brake with the ball of my foot. But yeah, the shifter the throws are long. It's not as easy to get into gear. There's times when I'm like, wait, am I in the right gear? It doesn't really inspire confidence. Yeah, that steering feedback is great. And with this rear engine setup, you of course have some understeer on throttle input, especially corner exit. Corner entry, not so much, because you're transferring that weight over the front. And with a hydraulic rack, getting a good amount of feedback, which feels great. Now I drove a 4S Cabriolet in San Diego a couple of weeks back, actually just last week, and the cars are pretty similar, but you feel that this is tighter and more taut. Obviously this is the hard top, not the Cabriolet, and it's two-wheel drive, not all-wheel drive, and it handles its weight better for sure. I thought that because that car was older, or because of the mileage, that maybe that's why some of the inputs were loose, but this car, it feels pretty much the same in terms of loose steering, loose transmission. The pedal box is also not as tight as I would want a sports car to be. The suspension changes that this owner has made are in good taste, but the issue I have is that it doesn't fit the rest of the character of the car. So suspension being a little bit tighter, a little bit tauter, doesn't quite match the looser, more relaxed inputs of the car. So it's almost having an identity crisis in that way. It doesn't feel as cohesive, even though the suspension is definitely an upgrade. Oh, some understeer. It's getting a little bit unsettled as well by these bumps, actually more so than compared to other cars. This M96, it's not Porsche's strongest engine. It doesn't sound amazing. It doesn't really wow you with power. It's fairly linear. I mean, it's naturally aspirated. It has the building blocks, the foundation. It's not really a strong suit of the car. It's also not really holding the car back, though. As Porsches normally do, this car does handle its weight quite well. And it's not hard to drive it more spiritedly. Because of the level of communication you're getting, you feel a little bit more comfortable with what the car is telling you. Now granted, again, this car is looser than more recent 911s or some higher trim 911s. It's not going to inspire confidence in that same way, but Porsche has a foundation that is quite good. Yeah, the RR chassis, just being able to have to adjust your driving style and to deal with all that weight in the rear, braking a little bit later, getting some understeer on corner exit, it makes for a more engaging and fun driving experience in my opinion. Yep. A lot of understeer on corner exit. And these cars, they do have McPherson struts in the front. The 992 GT3 introduced double wishbone, which helps to mitigate a lot of that understeer. As a base level car, it's quite good. Now, when you compare it to the more recent 911s and the higher trims, then it falls short. But when you look at it as in isolation, as a sports car, you compare it to other sports cars, not other Porsches, then you do really have an appreciation for this car. Its looseness and slight sloppiness with some of the inputs and some of the driving feel, I would say holds it back a little bit as a pure driver's car, a pure sports car. But it has good bones. It has a good, solid foundation with the chassis. The steering is lively with feedback. It's communicative. If there was a way to just tighten things a little bit, then this car would truly be excellent. Is this a GT3? Absolutely not. And with the current climate, it's so hard to afford one. Any generation GT3. So if you have that Porsche, that Porsche need, then maybe you get a base level Carrera, you add a body kit. I mean, some people are into that, some people aren't. But at least it gets you part of the way there. You have solid bones, a fun, good looking car, and overall, while newer generation 911s can show you what can be done with this RR platform, with Porsche, their capability, it's still overall a nice car to drive. Thanks for watching, my friends. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so. Much love, and I'll see you guys in that next one.